gable pitched roofs within the street scene. The proposal before members of this committee is considered to be a positive residential development within settlement limits. The scheme has been reduced in respect of its size, scale and bulk since the refuse scheme, which has improved the appearance of the development and the relationship with neighbouring properties, which is considered to overcome the reasons for refusal. The application is recommended for approval subject to conditions within the officer's report and members update, which includes an amendment to condition 2 to include the additional site plan received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just have the one speaker again, and it's the ward member, Councillor Bray.
Hello, good evening everybody. My comments on the application are on page 109 of the agenda, and they still stand. This application is better than the one before, definitely, but it's not by much, and I still think it's contrary to policy TB06, which is the one about inappropriate development in residential gardens, and says the council will only grant planning permission if the development makes a positive contribution to the area. And I think this development does harm to the local area and should be refused. On the access, while it's true there is an existing drop curb and gate, the vehicle access generally used by 484 Reading Road is the one to the side of the front of the house, opposite the area of double yellow lines, so it doesn't have the problem of coming out onto Baslow Road at the point where it's restricted by parked cars, which this will have. Baslow Road is part of the back route between Churchill Drive and Reading Road, and is extremely busy, and cars frequently have to stop immediately after they've turned into the road from Chatsworth Avenue because of traffic coming from Reading Road, and the two sets of vehicles are not able to see each other properly because of parked cars. And reversing out into that situation is really not very sensible. There's speed humps on the road for a reason. And finally, paragraph 24 talks about there being opportunities for off-street parking in the surrounding streets. The only off-street parking in the area belongs to the 2 blocks of flats in Calver Close, so it's not available, and in any case is not visible from the site. And maybe they didn't mean off-street parking, maybe they meant on-street parking. Even then, policy P3 in the Borough Design Guide says that parking for new houses should be close to the dwelling, preferably the front door. Paragraph 24 seems to be suggesting it's okay to have cars associated with new development littered around the surrounding streets, which I thought was the very thing the council's parking policy is supposed to be designed to avoid. So I'm not very happy about that. Please refuse this application. It's contrary to TB06 and to highway safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bray. Before I open it up to members, I'd just like us to come back on several of Councillor Bray's points. The first one being, could you explain how it is making a positive contribution? I know you put it out in the members' update, but if you could just reiterate that so everybody could hear. And then probably to Chris, could come back on the access. When we were there were people parked opposite, so if you just reassure us that people can still access it. And then perhaps you could also talk about the car parking spaces. I appreciate how many it's got. If you could just tell me what the policy is for that size of development. Yep. So those 3 points, please.
In terms of the size and scale of the proposed development, the proposed building represents a scale that is compatible with the with neighbouring sites, especially those that are opposite the road. The built form itself, in terms of its design and massing, is reflective of the local area, which is predominantly residential, and because of the reduction in the size and scale, it's overcome the reasons for refusal in respect of the separation distances. The gable design, the hipped roof, these are all elements, design elements that are seen along Reading Road, Chatsworth Avenue, and within the development that's opposite the street, and it would in fact create a sort of active frontage. At the moment there's 2 gardens backed onto each other, and then you can see bits of backland development, and what this would do is create an active frontage along the street scene, and it would face the road, so it gives residential development on both sides of the road that faces the street scene.
Thank you.
Yeah, just picking up on the points. Pick up the points in relation to parking. the scheme, our parking standards study report, obviously the calculator generates typically for, it's quite a difficult thing to use for a one house or two houses on their own. It typically lends itself to unallocated and obviously allocated divisions as well as visitor parking, which would normally be on schemes kind of 5 and above, where you'd have potentially an unadopted or adopted little cul-de-sac street or road. In this sense, obviously the two houses, they lead onto an unclassified road, which basically means that if any of those properties along here, that existing property that is currently there is already a garage in that location, but if they wish to put another access into their property, there isn't actually anything that would prevent them from doing so other than applying purely for a crossing licence to cross that section of the public highway. As it's unclassified, the highway code states that obviously you should enter and exit your driveway in a reverse gear, reverse in, reverse drive back forwards. But in terms of here, it's not something that you would ideally like them to follow the highway code. But from looking at it, there isn't a requirement, as it's not a classified road, for them to have turning on site. So in terms of the scheme, provides 2 parking spaces per dwelling. The width of the driveways, they're not tandem parking, as we're kind of more commonly seeing across some of the larger development sites. Therefore, the driveway itself is over 5 metres wide. A typical parking space is 5 metres in length. So we've seen that in this occasion, that the width of the driveway itself could accommodate a car parked on street in that location. So ideally the visitors could stop outside their drive, blocking the driveway, rather than another resident potentially blocking that section of road. So each house has 2 spaces, but we see that the visitor parking could be used to park in front of the driveway if required. The road width itself is quite wide. I believe it's about 6.5 metres from what was indicated in the report, which is sufficient width to accommodate a vehicle to park on street and for one to also reverse out. The requirement that we have is 6 metres from the back of the parked car. The footpath in that location is approximately 2 metres wide, giving you obviously 4.5 metres worth of carriageway depth, showing that obviously the tracking that we looked at, the vehicle could reverse out of those driveways sufficiently, even if there should be a vehicle parked on Basel Road itself. I think that kind of fits that in the 3 points.
Thank you. Right, we're fortunate enough to have both other board members here tonight, so I shall go with Michelle first and then Philip.
Being quite familiar with Basel Road, it's an extremely busy road. There are over 200 houses that feed out of there, and during rush hour, depending on which hour you call rush hour, there are more cars there than you can possibly get in and get out there. It's impossible to get in and get out at the same time. The road is not wide enough for 3 cars widths, because everybody is still parked there and leaves their car there, and then there's 2 lanes of traffic in addition. I don't think they're going to have a lot of fun getting in and out of those spaces at all. And I don't believe that it's actually adequate to put something in a place like that. It'd be like putting it right off of a very, very busy road. I think this is not a good idea, personally. Also, it's just there's been a number of almost accidents at that location. I think this is a bad idea.
Chris,
I think it's probably worth just mentioning, obviously there is a garage in the rear garden.
Yes.
And obviously, therefore, vehicle movements do already kind of take
Occasionally,
place.
not.
No, I appreciate it's occasionally, but they could use, that could be their sole garage, and that house could use that driveway in itself every day as much as it would do as a property. In terms of accidents, that's one of the things that we do consider in review, and there's been nothing on Basel Road in the last 5 years that's been recorded.
Mine was friendly, but it was really not.
In terms of, well, if they're minor, then obviously it depends if it's at a level that gets recorded, which is obviously when the police get involved. As an industry, we can only go on the information that's recorded, and obviously in terms of the police, it's the database that we use, and there's none recorded on Basel Road in the last 5 years that we can review.
Philip?
Well, the site at the moment is a long wooden fence, so I think putting 2 houses there will actually improve the street scene, and I agree with the officers in this respect. And the other thing to remember in terms of traffic is that the relief road will take a lot of traffic off Basel Road, I'm sure.
Now I'll open it up to the rest of the committee for questions. Wayne?
Can I just confirm, when we went on the site visit on Friday, either 484 and 486 are either very friendly neighbours, because it doesn't look to me as if they're two separate houses, or they must all share their garden together. That's the first question. And the building where it says in the red dotted line on the members update, but it's also on the other plan here. See, it's got, although it doesn't look very much, that's quite a substantial brick building there. It says remove existing building number to 486. So they're going to remove that structure and put it in the neighbour's garden, are they? Or is it all one house?
On the first point, I did raise that with the agent. As far as they're aware, they are two separate properties, and when they surveyed the properties, the fence was intact. So he's not sure what's happened to the fence line, but they are two separate properties owned by two separate individuals and occupied by two separate family units. The point on the removal of the building, that building is being demolished and replaced. That's a mistake on the plan. I have that in writing from the agent by email today. That they're not demolishing and relocating that building. It is just being demolished.
Oh, it's going.
Yeah, it's going. It's not being relocated anywhere else.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, members? If there are none, then we will go to the recommendation, which is set out on page 103 for approval, and then there's the conditions after that set out in the agenda. In the members' update, there is just the one change, which is condition 2, which is just putting down some of the plan numbers. So all those in favour, please show. That's 1, 2, 3. That's 6. Those against, 1. So that's carried. Thank you, members. Agenda item 31 then, on page 125, which is units 27 to 28 Sutton Business Park. It's a full application for the development site to provide a new Class B2, B8 industrial unit with car parking following demolition of the original building. It's before the committee as it's a major development, and we had the committee had a site visit last year, and I was one of those that went on that site visit, and Katie Harrington is the case officer. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The application site is outlined by the red line. Just for contextualisation, the railway line is located to the north or to the rear of the site. To the south-east is the Bakes building, the large one there. And immediately south is unit 6869, which is the rock portion building that was granted by the committee in December. To the east, around 110 metres from the site, are the properties from Trout Close, which is there. And to the south, around 235 metres from the site, are the properties of London Road. Photo 1 is of the application site. That's the existing building, and notice that the levels actually dip down to that building level. Photo 2 is the site next door. Photo 3 shows the site elevation of the Lakes building, and photo 4 is that larger unit 69 and 68 approved in December 2016. This is the image of the proposed site plan. Plan permission was granted for refurbishment of this building and minor alteration as part of application 616066. This current application now seeks to redevelop the site, keep out the new building from its refurbishment, This is because the approved refurbishment works proved to be cost prohibitive, and that a new modern facility was found to be a better option for the occupier. In terms of policy, the site is located in the core employment area. The proposal would result in a small loss of B-class floor space. However, a number of material factors would mean that such loss is not harmful. This includes marketing efforts, whereby from the perspective of convinced to make the building work for them, that the new building is designed to suit the needs of and to retain an existing firm within the borough, and that the amount of floor space to be lost is relatively small, so on balance the proposal would not be harmful in that respect. In terms of highway issues, the existing site includes vehicle parking to the front and side, and lorry loading delivery areas to the rear access via a shared side access. This would be a similar layout as shown by that plan of the proposed development, and also some parking spaces to the rear. The number of parking bays are increased from 80 to 90 and include 29 cycle bays and some motorcycle bays. And that provision of parking would comply with the council standards that's being applied for. In terms of character, the proposal would consist of a mixture of cladding panels and glazing that would be consistent with the character of the business park. The actual footprint of the building would be smaller than existing units, but it would be taller, extending from 8.1 metres to 16 metres. However, the proposed building is located well within the business park and would be lower than the buildings fronting the site. The Bricks building is 16.5 metres high, and the units directly to the south are also 16.5 metres high. As shown in the photos earlier, the site is also located within the land, so it would be around 2.5 metres lower than the framing landowners. Additional landscaping is also proposed to front of the site. Glimpses may be had of the building from outside the business park, but it would not appear out of character for those reasons. In terms of impact on residential amenity, as stated earlier, the closest residential properties are located over 100 metres away, and traffic movements etc. would not be significantly different from that of the existing site. The construction management plan and delivery time conditions are imposed to limit disturbance. In terms of updates, a new update from today is removal condition 4, which is for archaeology, requiring submission of reports. The report has been received and shall for archaeology, but the external consultant dealing with that has agreed that the conditions are no longer necessary. Any other updates involve changes to the volume of the conditions, and in addition to the section plan held in that report stand. As such, the proposal is recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. There are no speakers, so Michelle, then Bill.
Just a quick question. Has the cladding been checked to make sure it's fireproof? After all of the mess that's gone on in London, these should be tested, all cladding should be tested before being used on any building, even if it's not residential. Yeah, I know that, but still.
But yeah, that will have to comply with building regs.
Yeah. Well, they thought the ones in Grenville Tower did too.
But we're not the body here to consider that.
I know.
So, question.
Malcolm.
Thank you. Question. On page 130, delivery times, mentioned some time there. Is that the delivery time of equipment whilst you're making any changes to the building, or is that the working hours of the building when it's there? What does that refer to? 120.
So that's for the delivery hours once the building is in occupation. but there's a construction management plan that will deal with that sort of matter.
So, but are you saying then that is that the maximum number of working hours once it's there? Is that what you say? And if so, how does that compare with what goes on at the moment? You know? Is that longer hours, shorter hours?
The restriction on delivery hours is equivalent to the sites to the east, so it should all be consistent.
Consistent, okay, thank you.
Any other members wishing to say anything? Questions? No? Okay, then we'll go to the vote. The recommendation is set out for approval on page 126 with several pages of conditions, and on the members' update there are numerous changes to the conditions. So all those in favour, please show. And that is unanimous. Thank you, members. Right, we come to the last application on the agenda tonight. So agenda item 32 on page 147. It's the Manor Shinfield diversion of a footpath. I shall hand over to the case officer, Rebecca Walking.
Thank you, Chair. It's a diversion order for Shinfield footpath 10A. It's made under section 257 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. The authority has to be satisfied that it's necessary to do so to enable the development to take place, in this case 126 dwellings and a sports pavilion. There are no objections to the order from the Ramblers Association, the Open Spaces Society, the Local Access Forum or the Parish Council. The new path will be 2 metres wide, consist of tarmac and block paving, and the management company will be responsible for maintaining the new path.
That was short and sweet. Thank you. Right, members, questions? It's going to be even shorter if there are questions. Okay, if there are none, there's the recommendation which is in 3 parts on page 148. There's no updates in the members' update there. So all those in favour, please show. And that is unanimous, so thank you very much. That concludes the public section of the meeting.